Welcome to the 9th Annual Parsons College Wall of Honor Dedication Ceremony. We're honored to have such a great turnout for this event, more than we anticipated. And we're going to recognize members of our student body who have gone on into their chosen professions and have made a mark, not only in Fairfield, but the state of Iowa, our country, and also the world. I would like to invite you all to stand, and we have the national flag. I'd like to do the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Now at this time, I would like to introduce our Mayor of Fairfield, Ed Malloy, to share a few welcoming comments. Mr. Malloy.
Thank you, Dave, and good evening, everyone. Good morning, everyone. I was thinking about last evening, and how many of you had a chance to attend the unveiling ceremony for Mr. Gobble? Just a wonderful, wonderful occasion to honor someone who had such an extraordinary history and family legacy here in Fairfield, but was so much a part of Parsons and keeping that flame alive. And at the same time, being personally invested in being a bridge to the new university that came as well. So he, over the years, was just endeared by all parts of this community, something very, very valuable and something we will always cherish about him and his memory. So a great, great honor, and passing him today in the daylight for the first time, you can feel a little life in that statue, particularly today. So thank you. So welcome back to Fairfield. I'd like to just point out some of the recent accomplishments that we've enjoyed as a city since maybe you were here last time. There are some wonderful amenities that we've added to the community. I'll start with this building. We had our 10th anniversary celebration about 3 weeks ago. Very proud of everything that this building has meant to the community, and of course being a place where all of our Wall of Honor recipients are enshrined, and it is a permanent place where the legacy of Parsons can be viewed and understood for its contribution for 98 years to Fairfield. Last year we also opened up our new recreation center. First time that the city of Fairfield had actually built public facilities like that. We replaced our outdoor pool. We continue to get a lot of attention as a community that really does strive in that way to make the community as livable and a example of high quality of life as possible. One of the great things, great pieces of news that we learned this year is that our population is growing, and this is why we make these investments, so that we can retain our young people and we can attract people to Fairfield. We've focused a lot in the last 2 years on housing development. We've had some wonderful new housing projects. There's a developer that's been very successful just north of the MUM campus. Off of B Street, there's a development called North Campus Village, and he built 56 new units that sold out immediately within the last year. We have a development on South Main, just across from the new Jefferson County Health Center and Hospital. And there are some, I believe, 5 new duplexes that have opened there. Most of those are sold as well. But what we learned was that Fairfield's population, which had been hovering around 9,500 either side of it for the last 3 decades, we've grown since 2010 by 750 people. So the population is now 10,206 as of 2016. And Iowa State University put out a study about population, county population earlier this year, and Jefferson County grew by 7.4%. There were 5 counties in Iowa that grew by 7% or more. 4 of those were in the Des Moines metro area, and we were the only rural county to grow at that rate. And in fact, of the 99 counties, 73 had lost population. So we're doing something right, and we think we've got a great model for a community and one that does exemplify a high quality of life. We're grateful to have that validated by this growth in population. We would like to see it grow even more. We do have expansion plans, so we're very, very happy about that. And obviously that means that our economy is strong, our unemployment rate is quite low, just a little over 3%. We've had a lot of job growth in the manufacturing sector and the entrepreneurial sector. There are always new companies that are being formed and developed here, so a very, very healthy rural local economy, one that is also supported by the university, as Parsons always supported our local economic picture here as well. So thank you all for visiting us again. My great congratulations to all of the recipients. We really do enjoy, for the week prior to this event, reading all of the great accomplishments of the graduates of Parsons and the contributions that they've made to society. So congratulations on making our Wall of Honor, and I just hope that our dear friend, my dear friend, your dear friend, Dave Neff, becomes one of your recipients someday as well, so that we have him on the other side of the podium. So thank you all very much again, and enjoy your weekend.
A little bit taller. 9 years ago this weekend, we inducted the inaugural class, and today we have past inductees with us at this time. I would like to recognize them. And as I call your name, if you would stand up, hold your applause to the end, but we are blessed with a great returning group today. Class of 2010, Dr. Biff Coomer. Class of 2011, Coach Bob Spencer. 2012, Dr. Kay Ferguson. Not to correct the mayor, but I was inducted in 2012 also. Class of 2013, Dorothy Topping Bell, just deceased on the 22nd of September. There are flowers and memorial on the east cabinet out there. 2013, Dr. David Harding. 2013, Larry Litwin. 2013, Vera Price Young. 2014, Jean Copeland. 2015, Lindsay Shannon. 2015, Dean Hunholt. And representing his dad from the class of 2016, Bobby Harrison's son, Doug Harrison. Thank you very much, and congratulations. And Dave Thompson, he snuck in on us. Thank you, Dave. From class of last year, I was waving at you, live streaming from Sweden, so thank you very much, gentlemen. Lois. Forgive me. Thank you all for being here. Okay, let's take a little walk here, and many of our class inductees from the last chapter of Parsons. You may all remember the bar height organ, and that is enshrined here and does roll out occasionally for presentations, but this morning we're going to intertwine the bar height organ, a very special song that you folks from the 60s and 70s will remember, and a very special lady. It is our hope that those of you in attendance will remember the fun parties that we shared at Parsons, and it's my honor to introduce a lady who performed at these parties, especially for the Rum and Chowder Society and the WTBAs. At this time, I would like to welcome to the stage Cheryl Carlson Payne to share a moment with you. Cheryl.
There is a house in New Orleans they call the Rising Sun, and it's been the ruin of many a poor girl, and God, I know I'm one. My mother was a tailor. She saw those new blue jeans. My father, he was a gambling man way down in New Orleans. Now the only thing a gambler needs is a suitcase and a trunk. And the only time that he'll be satisfied is when he's on a drum. So mother, go tell your children not to do what I have done. Spend your life in sin, misery, in the house of the rising sun. Put my one foot on the platform, put my other one on the train. I'm going back to New Orleans to wear that ball and chain. In New Orleans, they call the rising sun, and it's been the ruin of many a poor girl. And God, I know I'm Let's all pray for peace and love. Thank you.
This year we have our 9th class to share with you today. Each year in our spring e-newsletter, we open a nomination period and invite alumni to present names of Parsons College graduates and/or students to be considered for the next October Wall of Honor induction ceremony. Our committee consists of Dr. Robert Tree, who is with us today, John Braidwood, John Blackstock, and myself. We review and consider these names and come to a final consensus. The nominations are then announced in the summer e-newsletter. The vision for this program and ceremony was shared with us by John Blackstock, class of '64, my colleague on the stage. John is also the editor and publisher of the Parsons College e-News. He announced the idea at the formal dedication of the Alumni Hall, where the plaques are held, and this was in 2008. The recommendation to form a Parsons College Foundation was made by John Braidwood, class of '68. He's seated with Dr. Tree at the back over here, at an all-class reunion in 2003. Since the announcement of the foundation, John has worked to raise funds to assist in the construction of this Fairfield Arts and Convention Center. Total dollars from our alumni, faculty, and staff during that period exceed $229,000. So we have taken ownership. We have a piece, we have a footprint, and we want to thank folks for that. You'll find the names of many of the contributors in the Brickyard, which is just outside the north main entrance to the center there. Another lady, Nancy Wertinen, is with us today. She's a Spirit Award recipient in 2015. She brought the recommendation to form a Parsons College Alumni Association to a reunion, and there are currently over 3,600 names of alumni in a database. Some of you may remember Dr. Dean Roussos, and in 2013 he became our 3,000th name that we had on this list. And this serves as the heart of information sharing. Nancy is assisted by Doug Marion, who is probably watching this live streaming. So Doug, good to see you in California. Ken Rice is also managing the information development of our alumni website. As I mentioned, Dr. Tree is with us, and he has provided a sounding board for the evolution of this entire process. We'll be forever indebted to these individuals who have given so generously of their time and talent. Without their energy, enthusiasm, and passion, these events, communication opportunities would not be possible. This is all volunteer, folks. Please join me as I ask each of these individuals who I just read to stand, and we'll recognize them with a round of applause. If you'd please stand at this time. We have a number of faculty and staff and trustees who are with us today. If you'd please rise and remain standing. On stage, one of our colleagues, Ray Ham, was assistant women's basketball coach. Bob Spencer, Coach Spencer, is in the audience also. Dr. Biff Coomer is with us. Dr. Tree, Vera Price Young, and also Larry Blixt is with us today. So we're very thankful that you made the trip and could join us here. Most recent graduates, class of '73, if you're here, if you'd like to stand, because you're the ones that we're relying on as the youth of this group to carry this forward. So class of '73, Pat Peck, Ray, Barb Heater, thank you so much. I would be amiss if I didn't recognize the administration of this center. Last night, a Spirit Award was given to Rustin Lippincott, who is the director, along with Susan Kessel, Mark Schaefer, and John Braidwood. So we're very thankful for these folks who are local and have helped with this. And also a very special thanks to my wife, Sherry Blau-Neff. If it wasn't for her patience with me in preparation, as Braidwood says, is there enough adrenaline flow in Neff? Can you do this? But Sherry, thank you for your patience and preparation with the name tags, providing registration table assistance, and to keep it a smooth running event. At this time, we'd like to take a moment to pause because sadly we're missing one of our key contributors to this event, to this whole process. Rhonda Blackstock wife of John of 35 years, passed away this past December. Rhonda was a pillar of our recent Parsons story. Number one, she loved Fairfield. She loved our Parsons mission. She adopted Parsons and the Friends as if they were her own. She was an integral part in publishing the top-level newsletter that you enjoy on a quarterly basis. The programs that you have in your hand, she developed the format for those. The bios you were reading, she would proof and bring together, and the name badges that you were wearing. She assisted my wife, Sherry, with registration. She had been retired 11 months and 12 days before her untimely passing. Please join me in a moment of silence in memory of Rhonda Blackstock. Peace be with you, John. Now the moment we've been waiting for, the 9th annual induction of the Parsons College Wall of Honor. I will call the presenter to the podium, and after brief remarks, the honoree will be asked to come to the podium for their own presentation and reception of a plaque. Ray Ham, who is on stage, will assist us. He is a 2016 Spirit Award recipient. We'll move to the center of the stage, and a photo will be taken that will be sent to you in the near future. The honoree will then be escorted to one of the chairs that comes across the stage and remain there until the completion of the program. All honorees unable to attend will be represented by a family member or a friend. Our first inductee, we thought alphabetical order would help with us older folks, so we're going to start at the top here. Dick Barton, Richard Barton, class of 66. Our first honoree grew up in Fairfield and has come full circle, and he's back in Fairfield today and now to the Wall of Honor. Here's Chuck, Butch, and Betty Downey to introduce Dick Barton. Butch and Betty.
As I get too emotional at times like this, my husband will say a few words. Thank you.
She's been pulling this honey you do it thing for about 50 years now, I think, 55. I've decided not to really talk about Dick's accomplishments in the field of education. It's all in the program. Y'all can read. I'd rather tell you about when I first met Dick Barton and some of that story. And it was right here in Fairfield. As school started our sophomore year, the Barton family moved to Fairfield. And within 2 weeks, his big brother stole my girlfriend, and Dick took my position on the football team. So I was really excited about having the Bartons come to Fairfield. The year passed. 2 days after we got out of school that spring, somebody said, "You hear about the sad news about the Bartons?" I said, "What's that?" And they said, "Well, he moved back to California." I said, "Yeah, that's really sad, you know." And so anyway, the next year passed. Everything was cool. Got my girlfriend back. Still got her. And all of a sudden, I believe it was a week after school started, our senior year in high school, somebody said, "Hey, did you hear about the Bartons? They're coming back to Fairfield." And I'm thinking, I hope that brother doesn't come too, you know. So he didn't. Dick and I and Betty had a great senior year here at Fairfield High. So Dick and I played lots of sports, football, basketball together. Betty was a cheerleader. It was just good times at Fairfield High. And I think it was 2 days after graduation, a bunch of us are out here at Lake Darling celebrating. And I said, "Well, where's Dick?" And they said, "Well, did you hear he moved back to California?" And I said, "You got to be kidding me." So he's out in California. I think he's driving a delivery truck. He's working for his dad in a little bar and grill that his father had purchased. And Frosty Westering, who had been Dick and I's coach here at Fairfield our sophomore year in high school and now is at Parsons, contacts Dick out in California and invites him to come back to Parsons and play football on a scholarship. Dick didn't have a lot of support in making this decision. Dick had lost his mother when he was in 8th or 9th grade. His father was dead set against him coming back to Parsons, so much so that I know that Dick and his father really didn't communicate for a while. So imagine a 17 or 18-year-old kid, you know, getting on a bus out in California, coming back and gets off the Greyhound bus over here at the Leggett Hotel with one duffel bag and $40 that his aunt had given him when he left California. And a dream, I think a desire to get an education and make a better life for himself. I think about the courage it took for Dick to get on that bus in California. And I think about the emotions that he must have felt when he got off the bus over here. I mean, I know he was excited about coming back and playing football for Frosty, but there had to be some anxiety. There had to be a little bit of fear about, is this all going to work out? I'm sure there was some loneliness because Dick was pretty much on his own. You know, a lot of kids came to Parsons and mom and dad would take them up to the dorm, get them all settled, meet the roommates, do a tour of the campus. Dad would say, you know, son, here's a couple of signed blank checks just in case emergencies. And that new car I bought you for graduation from high school, you're going to need some gas, so here's a credit card, you know, to buy a little gas with. And I hear it gets really cold here in Iowa in the wintertime, so I went down to Gobble's Clothing and set you up a charge account. And I told Lee to hold it down to about $500 a month. I mean, what could go wrong, you know, in this scenario? Dick Barton, $40, duffel bag. And nobody felt sorry for Dick because Dick didn't feel sorry for himself. You know, there was no whining in Dick Barton. And what he found out in a hurry was he had all kinds of family and support here in Fairfield. He had the Parsons football family that supported him. He had the Phi Sig fraternity that supported him. He had an incredible faculty and staff, in my opinion, that gave him all the support he needed. And he had a great little Iowa town that supported him. Yeah, I think Fairfield, Iowa, and Parsons College gave Dick all the support he needed to pursue his dreams. And when you read about all of his accomplishments, the honors and awards he received, his community involvements, the thousands of young people that he had to have influenced, I say, mission accomplished, buddy. And that there's just one thing that's always puzzled me about Dick. I mentioned to Betty on the way down here, and she said, oh, honey, you probably shouldn't bring that up. Is it okay? I said, Dick, why would you quit a perfectly good job in Des Moines, change your name to Richard, and move to Alaska unless somebody was looking for you? Thankfully, the statute of limitations kicked in, and Dick's back here to join us. It is an honor for Betty and I to present to you a classmate, a friend, and a guy that we're really, really proud of, Richard Barton.
The way you started, I thought I had a friend that was going to introduce me, but. And I always wanted to do this. I see people do it. Testing, testing. Okay. I do apologize because I'm going to be reading this. As you saw Mr. Neff come up and stand beside, we're under a tight timeline, and I don't want him to drag me off the stage in public. So I'm going to read this because I can read it faster than I can talk about it, I think. So. Thank you, Chuck and Betty, for those kind words of introduction. I've known Chuck and actually, I'm thinking Chuck got my speech somewhere because he used a lot of it. But I've known Chuck and Betty since sophomore year in high school here at Fairfield. I attended Pasadena High School my junior year, but returned to Fairfield a month or so after school started our senior year. We all attended Parsons from 62 to 66. And all I can say is, wow, what an honor. This is something I never expected. I'd like to thank the committee for this honor, and I'll do my utmost to live up to this award. Fairfield and Parsons, What a great foundation to begin preparation for adult life. We have heard over the years from other presenters what a great school Parsons was for us, and it definitely was. Parsons' innovative educational techniques made it possible for students to be successful, even me. Large group lectures presented by top doctoral professors in their fields of study. Small group sessions were offered by other professors in the department to further explain and discuss the large group lectures. Individual tutorial sessions were offered to students requesting that service. What a great educational model for success. For those students not choosing to take advantage of the model or the sessions available, they were probably down at the den studying to learn everything they would need to know for their adult life ahead. And it seems like I see some of these faces here I recognize from down in there. If we had had Parsons' system in high school, Chuck, Betty, and I, well, not Betty because she was number one and she was very talented and smart, but Chuck and I, we maybe could have graduated the year we were supposed to. Actually, we did graduate on time, but being back in Fairfield and new again, I was curious about the grading and the standing in class. I asked Chuck about class rank. He said he was number 24. I said, I thought that sounded pretty good. I asked him how many students in the class. He said 23. Okay. But I asked him how many, well, I didn't have a class rank, so I guess that put me at 25. The diplomas didn't have a class rank on them, so I made up a little reminder for us for when the grandkids ask. Betty? Butch? And this is mine. Betty's number one, and this, I'm not introducing Dave Switzer today, but I do have him in here. I want to say a little something. But Betty's number one may have to be shared with another inductee today, another classmate of ours, Dave Switzer. Dave Switzer was smart. He majored in physics and mathematics, but decided to Butch and I, and if I say Butch or Chuck or Charles or Bennett, it's all the same person I'm talking about back here because he's gone by all of them. But Chuck and I were going to go into physics and advanced math, but decided to do something more difficult and challenging like real estate and education. So we gave all of our knowledge about physics and math to Dave, and the rest is Parsons history. I will say, however, that during my 42 years in education, that I did deal with some difficult and challenging situations. You may have heard that Parsons was called the School of the Second Chance. Maybe that was true for some, but for some of us, and including me, it was probably our only chance. The day after I graduated high school, my family and I moved back to California. I was working as a delivery truck driver, delivering into LA, Hollywood, North Hollywood, San Fernando Valley. Was this going to be my life? I didn't know. School wasn't cheap, even back then, and college wasn't an option for someone like me and my family. Fortunately, Fairfield hadn't forgotten about me. Our high school coach, Frosty Westering, was now the head coach at Parsons College. He was a great role model and a great coach. He was inducted into the National College Football Hall of Fame in 2005. He had won several national championships. In 1962, he contacted me out in California and offered me a full-ride, 4-year scholarship to play football here at Parsons, and I jumped at the chance. At the time, my father thought I was too young to leave home, So on my suitcase, hitchhiked from Norco, California to Corona, California to catch that Greyhound bus headed for Fairfield. And it took 4 miserable days on that bus to get back here. School started, football began, and I settled in. It didn't take long for me to realize what an important connection there was between college and the community. A familiar face from high school, Chuck Downey, or Butch Downey, was on the team. More familiar faces appeared as teachers and coaches of the Fairfield area who are now working at Parsons. These included Frosty Westering, Roger Nielsen, O.B. Nelson, Bill Karras, Vera Young, who has been a recipient, Dick Eland, Lou Lincoln, some of you may remember because he coached and taught our parents. We had 3 students in our class also at Fairfield High School who had parents who were doctors here at Parsons. Dr. Carpenter was band in the band area. Dr. Williams, Dr. Carpenter's son, Dan, was in our class. Dr. Williams, vice president of business for the college. Dave Williams was in our class, played quarterback on the football team and was an outstanding high school wrestler with us. Dr. Sloka, son Steve, was in our class. And back then, you know, we didn't have Siri that we could ask questions to. But Steve's enjoyment for reading was reading the encyclopedia, seriously. And so we just asked Steve if we had any questions. I became aware of businesses who also donated to student programs and supported Parsons, like Lee Gobble Clothing, Gomer's Drug, Kirkus Jewelry, Perry Clothing, Fairfield Ledger, and others. George's Pizza, who could forget the original George's Pizza. Parsons and Fairfield worked in concert to create a place where every student felt that they belonged, and Fairfield soon became the support system some of us may have never had. The way this school and community lifted each other up was an inspiration to me and something I had never seen in my life until then. How many colleges around southern Iowa had 40 acres or so donated to them of valuable farmland so that they could build a motocross track and ride their motorcycles? The WTBA, Where the Boys Are group, had that occur. To my knowledge, not any other colleges around southern Iowa had any support like that. Getting close, sir.
Yeah, because we got other folks here.
Last one. I'll skip down a little bit. And Parsons was great with its innovative practices, and it was even greater because Fairfield community was so solidly behind it. The Parsons College community and the Fairfield community became one over the years, and she can do that. So she was a cheerleader. She knows. And one without the other would never be the same. There's never been another place like it, and we were fortunate enough to be part of it. Once again, I would like to thank the committee for this award. I would also like to thank John Blackstock and Dave Neff, who I admire and respect for all they do to keep the memories of Parsons College still alive for all of us today. Thank you.
Michael Brewer, class of '61. Fairfield, Iowa is a better place to live and work today because of the contributions and years of hard work by our next inductee. Here's Beth Brewer-Hoyt to present her father, Mike.
Good morning. I'm very happy to be here today to brag on my dad, Michael Brewer, formerly known to some of you as Mickey or Mick. That sounds weird. My dad attended Parsons from 1957 to 1961, the first in his immediate family to attend college. He is the son of hard-working farmers from Garner, Iowa. Parsons opened a world of opportunity that Dad embraced and expounded upon throughout his life as a leader in every community he has lived. It's safe to say that Parsons was the instigator of Dad's success. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We should start at the very beginning. Freshman year, Howard Hall. Shenanigans abounded and new friendships were forged. Dad will neither confirm nor deny any knowledge of how two large draft horses ended up in the choir loft of Barnet Memorial Chapel. He doesn't know. Nor does he have any information regarding the epic alarm clock incident at the 11 a.m. convocation, where over 50 alarm clocks rang and rang and rang those students right out of convocation early. Darn. On a matter of a full-sized wagon being reassembled on the roof of Parsons Hall during homecoming of his freshman year, Dad is also claiming innocence. He says he wasn't even there. Speaking of homecoming, he will gladly take credit for being the 1959 homecoming chairman during his junior year and organizing the largest parade in Parsons history. Aside from all the fun that Dad had in his years at Parsons, he also learned how to be a dynamic leader. He joined the Tau Kappa Epsilon fraternity in his freshman year. Then he got involved in student government in his sophomore and junior years, culminating his time at Parsons as the student body president his senior year. Upon graduation, he was hired to be the director of student affairs, bringing huge names in entertainment to Fairfield, like Louis Armstrong, Nat King Cole, the Kingston Trio, and my favorite, the Smothers Brothers, who actually flew Dad out to Las Vegas for their first $1 million contract signing because they told him he gave them their start right here at Parsons. He married my mom, Kay Hildreth, on September 4th, 1966. He had my brother in 1969, and then I came along in 1992. Well, maybe 72. Okay. In 1967, at the age of 27 years old, I still have a hard time wrapping my brain around that my dad bought a company, a business, when he was 27 years old. He was the owner of the Fairfield International Farm Equipment Dealership until 1985, when he showed the amazing ability to adapt to a completely new career. Dad was the executive director of the Fairfield Area Chamber of Commerce until 1997. During his tenure, he dedicated himself to building a strong business community and prosperous future for the people of Fairfield. In 1997, he took on a bigger challenge and moved to the Burlington area to be the CEO and president of the Burlington and West Burlington Area Chamber of Commerce and Economic Development Association until 2005. He was the driving force behind the development of a business park, and he even has a street named after him in Burlington. Dad was named the Chamber Executive of the Year by the Iowa Chamber of Commerce Executives in 2005, a momentous recognition of his tireless work to make Iowa a better place to live. He earned his well-deserved retirement in 2005 and moved to the Lake of the Ozarks. In the Ozarks, he led the Lake Presbyterian Church in a major remodeling project, adding a large, welcoming foyer, bathrooms, elevator, and a kitchen. So everywhere Dad goes, he makes his community better. With his positive leadership, he guided myself and my brother to achieve master's degrees, and my brother even to a doctorate degree. He pushes people to fulfill their potential with kind and persistence. He sees what can be and then actually does the work to make the vision a reality. He now enjoys pushing his golf buddies to improve their game, his church to give generously, and his family to be their best. Parsons was the spark that ignited Dad's passion for meaningful, engaged commitment to community. It makes me very happy to see that Parsons is acknowledging my dad's significant contributions with this honor. And it is my pleasure to introduce my dad, Mike Brewer.
Well, in keeping with Dave's suggestion, I think enough has been said and printed to suffice, so allow me to say a big thank you for the honor.
Anthony Tony Dimaggio, class of '67. Our next honoree has a special talent for baseball. He also has a special eye for recognizing Major League Baseball talent. He parlayed that talent to carve an outstanding career. I am very happy and honored that Tony invited me to be his presenter today. Tony grew up in a sports-infused community of McKees Rocks, Pennsylvania, just outside of Pittsburgh. His love of baseball began as a youth, playing Little League, and quickly excelled through junior and senior high. South Williamsport, Pennsylvania, is located north and east of Pittsburgh, and that's the home of the World Little League Museum and Stadium. Make no mistake, this is a hotbed of baseball, and Tony was destined for a career in that sport. When Tony arrived in Fairfield and was issued his first baseball uniform by legendary coach Joe Lutz, a whole new chapter was about to open for him. The high caliber of intercollegiate baseball, especially the Summer League, was at a pinnacle. The season records were always lopsided, with the Wildcats having a winning percentage of over 700, a record of 21-9 in 1965. These teams were jam-packed with high school stars who were ready for the next step at the collegiate level, and many of them were destined to move on to the major leagues. 10 or more of these Wildcats were drafted and played at some level in the major leagues. Tony and the team continued that same high caliber of play in representing the college in the Midwest. Spring baseball trips to the South were always a highlight of the program. Some of the teams the Cats would play were Texas University, Trinity College, Fort Sam Houston, Texas, Tulsa University, and Wichita State. 6 players over 300 in their batting average and 5 pitchers better than a 600% in wins. Make no mistake, Parsons Wildcat baseball was widely respected. When Coach Joe Lutz moved on to the professional ranks, Coach Dwayne Banks moved in the head coaching position, and the tradition continued. After a few years, Coach Banks moved on to the University of Iowa, and now the baseball field in Iowa City carries his name. As you are aware from reading Tony's bio and the program of his achievements and major scouting opportunities. What a career and how many lives he has touched in the sport, which he loves. Spans 31 years and 5 professional teams. In 2008, he was awarded the MLB Scout of the Year. Tony also received the highest honor in MLB scouting, the Distinguished George Genovese Lifetime Achievement for Scouting in 2015. Make no mistake, he loves the sport so much that his email is bangandbat@yahoo.com. We were fraternity brothers. Tony was also a member of Sigma Phi Epsilon fraternity, where we attended social gatherings on the weekends and many of the memories off the playing field. Sig Ep fraternity was a melting pot of athletes, of baseball, football, basketball, track and field, as well as scholars. Lifelong friendships resulted from this camaraderie, and we still have reunions every 2 years. And I found out yesterday and today, Coach Larry Blixt has joined us to come from Des Moines to help honor Tony. So they were teammates, and we're very glad that you're in the audience, Larry. It's my honor and privilege to introduce my fraternity brother and friend as our next inductee at 2017 Parsons Wall of Honor, Tony Dimaggio, if you'd please come forward.
I will try to be brief. Speech was not one of my best subjects. It's wonderful to be back where everything started and my journey started. I'm happy to have my wife with me, Diane, who suffered through many lonely days by herself while I was traveling. And without her and our children, I wouldn't be standing in front of you right now. They made it possible for me to go to work. and not have to worry about what was going on back home because everything was being taken care of by her. I am grateful for the nomination and the nomination committees, and a special thank you to Nancy, Dave, John, and Biff for their tireless efforts in keeping the spirit of Parsons alive. Especially Nancy, who last night we spoke, and all the names that she has to keep up with. I think that's quite a job, and I think she deserves a round of applause. Congratulations to my fellow inductees. If you read the bios of their accomplishments, diverse, yet all successful in their chosen field, but they all have one thing in common. They all came from Parsons. 50 years ago, I traveled to Parsons to a town called Fairfield, along with Jim Zarilla. My father drove from Pittsburgh in our old 55 Chevy that burned more oil than it did gas. Little did I know what would take place the next 4 years. I came to play baseball for Joe Lutz, which was not easy, in hopes of playing professional baseball at some point. And I came to get an education that no one in our family had ever had. My father was a steel worker, and my choice was either the mill or school. That was an easy choice. Not being the best student, nor the worst, the school called Parsons was going to give me the opportunity to do both, play baseball and hopefully receive a degree. Opportunity was all I wanted. Parsons was, for me, opportunity. Dr. Roberts was a visionary and had a plan to give many students an opportunity to realize their educational dreams. I stand here before you as one of them. As the years went by and the school grew, it never lost its sense of identity. The enrollment size didn't matter. The students were a proud group of Wildcats that is still evidenced today. The town was part of the school community, and Fairfield and Parsons were united in a grand way. It was a happening here, as those of you know. My career goal was never realized as a pro player, so I entered the field of education as a teacher, coach, and high school administrator. I thought my dream was over, but little did I know it was not. Professional baseball came along, and my dream was realized in a different capacity as a professional baseball scout. This wonderful journey lasted 30-plus years until my retirement 2 years ago. For me, Parsons College will always be my home and the start of my adult life. The memories and friendships made are branded in my heart forever. From teachers to classmates to coaches to teammates, especially my good friend Larry Blix, who I really appreciated coming here today. I will never forget what I have experienced while here in Fairfield. I owe my career to Parsons College, all because of having been given that opportunity, which I spoke of earlier. So today, I am proud to stand here before you and accept this honor. I accept this on behalf of my teammates, some of whom are no longer with us. I love my alma mater as much today as I did 50 years ago. When I came here, I am truly honored and humbled by this achievement. Thank all of you here today for sharing it with me. Thank you very much.
Franklin Foulks, class of '66. Frank Foulks was Parsons' first black football coach. He started on the field as a player and then off the field as a coach. He broke many barriers while posting a stellar 35-year career of coaching the NCAA and the NFL. Presenting Frank Foulks today is former player Andy Balish.
I'd like to start by saying that I am deeply honored and humbled to be able to be the presenter as well as the recipient of the Wall of Honor Award for Coach Foulks. Frank is unable to attend this program. His wife, Carol, had open heart surgery several weeks ago, and it came to me, basically. Dave Neff had requested that he was looking for a presenter. And at that point, he contacted me, and I was humbled to be able to do so. In that time, I was able to contact Coach Foulks, and we talked for 20, 30 minutes and got a feeling as far as coming back to Fairfield. His career, as you can read in the program, he was at 9 different colleges or universities, but the first one that stands out is Parsons College. He came from junior college in Missouri, out of Florida, and he came here and made a major impact both in my life as a player and a student, but also on the college. Once he left, he went to Kansas State, and through time in his career, he broke down barriers that were there initially, becoming the first black African assistant coach at a Southern university or a Southern conference, and that was at Arkansas. I had a privilege to be able to call him one evening when I was an assistant at Marshall University back in '73, and I was a young coach in the office, and it was late, and I wasn't able to get out like the other coaches were going home. And so I took a phone call. I was making a phone call, and I called the University of Arkansas, and the phone answered, the gentleman answered the phone. I said, "Frank." He said, "Yes." And I said, "This is Andy Balish." And he said, "Who?" And I said, "Andy Balish." He said, "You're looking for," and I said, the gentleman on the other end said, "This is Frank Broyles." And so that was my contact with Coach Broyles at that time. But he put me in touch with Coach Foulks, and that was the last time I had an opportunity to speak to him prior to about a month or so ago in preparation for this program tonight. My time with Coach Foulks was split between defense and offense, but one of the major impressions that he made upon me in my career, a short career in coaching, was that he was not a screamer, he was not a hollerer, but he had that look about him that if something went wrong or you didn't do it right, he had that eye, and he was able to look at you and you got the message in that place. He was a player's coach, and that he understood what we were going through, and he was able to make it easier for us as athletes to try to get the job done. I had the opportunity to contact several former players and asking them to maybe impart with me their thoughts and comments about their experiences with Coach Foulks. First one that came to mind was Frank Antonini, but Frank writes back that he did not have the opportunity to play with him, but because when he got here, when Frank came in, Coach Foulks was the freshman coach at that time, but Frank wrote that he kind of paved the way for him in the adjustment period when Frank Antonini came in, that he taught him, showed him the ropes, so to speak, and introduced him to the other players, and that a lot of these guys that he was teammates with at that time, they are still good friends and friends right now to this day. Another gentleman that I talked to, and I'm very gracious that he's been able to extend their hospitality at his house with both he and his wife, is Bill Moore and his lovely wife, Sig. I asked Bill about what his thoughts were playing for Coach Foulks, and Bill didn't write anything down, but he told me a story about the time they went to Cal State LA to play, and I think that was his sophomore year. And when they were out there, Bill and a couple other younger players were still left in the hotel room. Frank Foulks came to him and said, "Bill, let's go take a look at the Pacific Ocean." He says, "I know that you were a Florida boy, grew up on the Atlantic coast," and he said, "Let's go look at the Pacific Ocean on the West Coast." Sometimes coaches don't have to do that, but Frank did that for Bill and another player who remains nameless. I don't know who he was, but he took Bill and this other player across Sunset Boulevard, down through Westwood, and on over to Santa Monica and Malibu in that area, where he saw the Pacific Ocean for the first time. Another player that I contacted was Alan Schaffner. And Alan writes that as a freshman, I remember practicing and watching Frank Foulks every day at practice. He was a key part of a good offensive football team. Then the next year, he was my offensive line coach for 3 years. Coach Foulks was a firm, fair, and consistent coach, and Alan would like to thank him for all he did for himself, and the rest of the town Wildcats. Ken Sweeney was another person I was able to contact, and Ken wrote that the time at which I sent to him, Hurricane Irma was coming through Florida, and he was kind of in an emergency mode. But he said basically that he loved that his remembrances of Frank was that he was a great player and a coach, and that he loved playing pinball in the Student Center. He taught him a lot about playing offensive guard, and then later on when Ken coached in Florida, he was saw him basically as a recruiter for some of the schools that he was recruiting for. So those are the players that had memories of Coach Foulks. I'd like to thank both Coach Foulks and the coaches from Parsons, Coach Blix, and the other coaches that are not here today for the opportunity they provided me to be able to stand here this afternoon and to make this presentation for Coach Foulks. Without this school, some of the opportunities I've had in my career would not be where I am today with that, but I appreciate that. Wanted to keep it short and sweet. Most of his credentials are in the program, but he's a strong, fine gentleman. Thank you.
Sandy Conrad McCullough, class of '72. Had the Parsons Network not offered our next honoree a scholarship, she probably would not have gone to college, and the world of alternative education would have not been as bright. Presenting Sandy Conrad McCullough is her former Wildcat basketball coach, Bob Spencer.
Good morning to all of you. What a nice group we have here today to honor all of these outstanding Wall of Honor recipients. On behalf of all concerned, thank all of you for being here. Thanks, Dave. On this inclement day, we hope you all enjoy your stay. I would be remiss if I did not recognize Vera Young, who as a professor at Parsons College gave me the opportunity years ago to help her with the women's basketball team, which she coached at the time. Also, my loyal assistant and co-coach for 8 years, Ray Ham. Also present today are former Parsons graduates and teammates here to honor Sandy. We welcome them. Here as well is Sandy's husband, Greg McCullough, administrator at DMAC, along with their son Chris, an engineer. Their other son, Troy, is a writer with the Wall Street Journal and lives in China. What a talented family. Sandy Conrad McCullough has been involved in education her entire career. She graduated from Parsons College as a basketball American, as well as an outstanding softball player in athletics, student first. For over 40 years, she has been a high school teacher and coach, a guidance counselor, and a principal. Half of those 40 years have been devoted to helping at-risk students, Sandy is recognized as an authority in the field of alternative education. Her background in particular is one of loyalty, dedication, and respect for all people. Her work ethic is second to none. Personally, I have never had the opportunity to teach or coach a more talented young woman, and I have been blessed with that opportunity with many. With much admiration, respect, and affection, I introduce to you Sandy Mccullough, extraordinary wife and mother, and outstanding educator and person. Thank you.
Good morning. Thanks, Coach, for the nice introduction. Thanks to my husband, Greg, and my son, Chris, for attending today. I'd like to say hello to my son in Hong Kong. Him and his family, they might be watching this through live streaming, if they can get it. So, love you all. Also, thanks to my friends, my Parsons friends. It's always great to get back together with them again. I'm happy to see you're here today. So my road to Parsons started back in 1968. It was the summer after my senior year. I was invited to play at an all-star basketball clinic in Spirit Lake, Iowa. Well, after the game, Coach Spencer came up to me, introduced himself as the women's basketball coach at Wahoo, Nebraska, John F. Kennedy College in Wahoo, Nebraska. So within the next few weeks, I found him at my house in Lacona, Iowa, talking to me about attending JFK in the fall. And I did. I enrolled there in the fall of '68. Well, the spring of our sophomore year, we knew that John F. Kennedy was having some financial problems, and we were really concerned as to whether they were going to stay open or not. So we started looking around for other colleges for us to transfer to. Well, after scouting several locations in Nebraska, Coach asked me, I remember him saying this to me, Sandy, how would you like to go home to Iowa? So we went with Coach, a few of us, drove with Coach over to Fairfield to visit Parsons College. Well, when we stepped on the campus just for that initial visit, I knew this is where I wanted to be. I knew I was home. What a beautiful campus. The trees on campus, the stately buildings. Then they took us to the quads, which were very unique and unusual. Had our own little single room with a lounge in the middle. But then they took us to the field house, and it was like, wow, it was phenomenal, especially compared to what we had been playing in. So when fall arrived, the college not only welcomed us with open arms, they honored our scholarships, which had been awarded to us by JFK. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't mention this. Coach Spencer and Parsons had a major role as pioneers in women's intercollegiate basketball. Our first day on campus, Ethan Town was there to greet us, making sure we had everything we needed. Ethan also coached the women's softball team, which I played on for 2 years. He was a phenomenal softball coach, taking us to the College World Series in '71 and '72. Just an all-around great person who left us much too soon. Also, Ray Ham played a major role on our team as an assistant coach, a manager, a van driver, a scout. In fact, between Ray, Pinky, and Pinky's dad, and those that are here know who that is, who those guys are, we had everything we needed in the field house. Well, when you participate in athletics in college, you do spend many hours in the field house practicing and many hours traveling and quite a bit of time away from campus. But when we played our games at home, the field house was always packed, and it was really exciting to play in front of that many people. For warm-ups, we would run out with Sweet Georgia Brown playing, and we each had a little routine that we had to perform. I have many fond memories of my basketball career, but one game in particular stands out to me. We were playing a doubleheader, but what happened in this game was not really typical of our games. It was a Saturday game, and I wasn't in the game yet, and we weren't doing too well, so Coach Spencer yells to me, "Now, Sandy," can't you just hear him, how he is? "Get in there and fire the girls up." And really, it didn't take much to get me excited. So I checked in. I bet I wasn't in the game for 30 seconds, maybe a minute. Went down for a rebound against a girl who was much bigger than what I was. I mean, she was a big girl. Well, you know, she was big. I remember her name to this day. It's Linda White. We were both going up for a rebound, and I thought, you know, Coach told me to get in here and get the girls fired up, so I gave her an elbow. I didn't think it was that big of a deal, but she doubled over, and she made this sound that was so horrific, it reverberated throughout the entire field house, and I'm like, holy cow, what did I do? What did I just do? I wasn't expecting that. Well, neither of us got the rebound, so I turn around to run down the court and quickly realized that Linda White was running after me. She's right behind me. Then I realized, you know, she's just not behind me. She is chasing me down. So we get across the midcourt, and she tackled me. Ended up right on top of me. Then I realized she's not the only one on top of me. I think someone else has jumped on top. And maybe another. I wasn't really sure, because at this point, I really couldn't do much. All the while, I'm on the bottom of the pile. Linda White is doing anything she can, pinching me, she's scratching at me, she's pulling at my hair, until finally, the officials pull her off of me. And as they did, she still had a hold of my hair right here. And she pulls a hunk of hair out, and to this day, I can still see it. It just gently floated down to the floor. If you know me, ask Lois, you don't mess with my hair. It was kind of like slow motion. But then, after they pulled her off of me, she jumps up and starts pointing at me and said, "She elbowed me, she elbowed me." And I'm like, are you kidding me? So I just said right back, well, she pulled my hair. She pulled my hair. She had just chased me down, tackled me, scratched me, pinched me, whatever she could do. And that's all I had was she pulled my hair. Well, to this day, I really do have less hair here. I really do, because she pulled it out. Well, all I can say about that is, like I said, that wasn't a normal game. I'm so happy there was not social media back in the day. I also might point out that Coach Spencer never asked me to go in and fire up the team again. I'm almost done. Parsons College wasn't all about basketball and softball. I did earn a teaching degree with a BA in English, then went on to earn my master's at Drake in counseling administration, which I never would have accomplished without the education provided to me by Parsons. Then, after 41 years of teaching, being counselor administrator, I'm enjoying retirement today. To end, I would like to say thank you to Dave Neff, John Blackstock, everyone who's on the selection committee for the Wall of Honor. I know you put a lot of hard work into this. It's very humbling to receive this award. Special thank you to Coach and Pat Spencer, who have been friends since 1968, and they still are today. To Ethan Town, to my Parsons professors, and to everyone who was involved in helping to shape me into the educator, coach that I became and the person I am today. Coach Spencer believed in me. He made me an offer back in 1968, and thank goodness I took advantage of it. He taught me the value of hard work, dedication, and saw potential that I didn't know I had. Finally, thank you to the community of Fairfield. Thank you to Parsons, who back in 1970 opened their arms and doors to us. I will be forever grateful, and both will always have a place in my heart. Thank you.
Frank Repass, class of 71. Can you imagine having trained over 6,000 students? I can't. Well, that's exactly what our next Wall of Honor inductee did. Here to introduce Frank Repass is David Thompson, inductee 2016.
Good morning, fellow alumni and friends and family. And of course, acknowledgement to Dave Neff and John, who have been instrumental in arranging these awards over the last few years. Thank you, guys. My name is Dave Thompson. I'm from Portland, Oregon, and I was honored to be asked to introduce one of Parsons' newest members of the Wall, Frank Repass, a class of 1971. Excuse me. Frank was both my fraternity brother and has become an absolute lifetime friend. I thought instead of going through, I've got a short comments to make, but I've got a little presentation I thought I'd run us through here, give you a touch of Frank's life. And Frank was born in 1949 to Gertrude and Oscar. Frank has two sisters, Mary and Beverly. They grew up in Cocoa Beach, Florida, where Frank graduated from high school in 1967. He was recognized as an outstanding high school athlete in both football and baseball. That summer, he was offered a football scholarship to Parsons College. He accepted it. That fall, a young 18-year-old Floridian loaded up his blue Volkswagen Beetle, headed north to Parsons College to play football, complete an education, and make what would be lifelong friends. And for the first time in his life, the Floridian has seen snow. He's going to see a lot more of that in the next 4 years. Also arriving from Florida on football scholarships, two other freshmen, both with us today, Eric Duffield and Bill Moore. The three of them and myself have remained very close friends over the years, and they're here to honor Frank and his award. Also as a freshman at Parsons, I met Frank and Eric as we pledged the Phi Sig fraternity, and we endured the notorious hazing they delivered to all of their pledges. Hell Week was just that, 7 tough days, but we survived, and the resulting friendships have lasted nearly 5 decades. But for college life, Frank wasn't just about books and football. Frank liked girls. Lots of girls. And with that aw shucks, down home Florida demeanor, he had girlfriends in Iowa, Florida, and states in between that we don't know about. Our social life as friends was great as we all tried to keep up with one another. But college at Parsons was not just an education, it was social growing as it was for so many of us. And it made an impact on our life as we went forward. 4 years later, Frank, on time, graduated and returned home to Florida. After about 10 years, he finally settled down, got married, had two terrific children. His son John, 33 years old now, is a civil engineer in Orlando, and his daughter Kit has her master's degree and teaches in Baltimore. Career-wise, Frank was every bit as accomplished as was his athletic prowess in college. As a young police officer, Frank joined the Orlando Police Department. In the following 21 years, he'd become the range master for the police department, a senior member of the Special Weapons and Tactics team known as SWAT, where he would lead or be involved in over 500 special operations. After 21 years, Frank retired from the Orlando Police Department, and I think Frank was thinking about double-dipping his retirement, and he did just that. He secured a job as the Director of Security and Training for NASA at Cape Canaveral. I was his VIP guest for the last shuttle landing, and Frank had me up close and be able to walk the shuttle in. It was pretty cool. It's something I'll remember my whole life. Frank is both a nationally and internationally recognized and court-certified leading firearms expert in the United States. He holds a record of 29 weapon instructor ratings and has trained over 6,000 law enforcement professionals all over North and South America. Frank's accolades include being named the Fraternal Police Officer of the Year in 1999, and even more impressive, the Charlie Smith Award, which is the highest international award bestowed by his colleagues for leadership in firearms tactical training. Now retired, Frank and his significant other, Edie, who is with us today. And by the way, Frank, I don't know how you got this hot blonde to hang around with you the last 7 years, but it bewilders all of us. Either way, today they spend their time between their summer home in the Virginia mountains and their home in Cocoa Beach, Florida in the wintertime. They enjoy spending time with their family. He rides his motorcycle, and at 68 years old, still plays competitive team softball with 30-year-olds. And then afterwards tries to go out and party with them. Good luck with that, Frank. So, to my great, great friend at 18 years old, and now my dear friend of over 50 years, Frank, congratulations. We at Parsons can be proud to call you one of ours. And ladies and gentlemen, Oscar Frank Repast.
Thank you, David. Excellent presentation. Can you tell that he's a CEO of 26 Volvo dealerships on the West Coast? By the way, this is the first time he's been back to Parsons and Fairfield. Last time he was driving westbound to start his career, driving a brand new Volvo truck. Oh, wait a minute. Was that a new Peterbilt that you had? The truck joke. Truck joke. I will start off thanking the ones that brought me to the stage at this point of my life. Thank for Dave Neff, the board of directors of the Hall of Honor. Of course, Dave Thompson, thank you. Also, I want to thank for the other people that and the teammates that I played with that have come all across the country, all the way from New Jersey to Kentucky, Chicago, Portland. Two friends came all the way from Florida for this special events. Thank you for sharing this special moment for me. Also want to recognize somebody that started my very special moment coming to Parsons College. Very first home game, I looked down the sidelines, and here's this guy in a top hat and a tuxedo with tails leading the crowd, and they go crazy. So what a wonderful time. Yeah, my first thinking was, wonderful college, it's going to be special here, wonderful place. But starting off those wonderful memories, Biff Coomer, I want to thank you for that, and also for recommending me for this great honor. I'm going to take you back to 1955. After working hard all his life, a young man in his 30s with a wife and 3 small children learned that his business partner had run off with all his money in his car repair shop. Broke and unemployed, he hitchhiked. Took him 3 days to go down to Cape Canaveral. Went from the Blue Ridge down to Cape Canaveral, where you learned and heard of this program about, of all things, exploring space. After a year, he got enough money. He returned back to Virginia. He got his family. Hitchhiked, by the way, on the way back. Picked up his family, drove down there. We lived in a trailer, uninsulated, unair conditioned, 2 rooms. But after a year, we were lucky enough to buy a home. At that point, our family and our kids flourished. Edie told me not to do this. That man was my father. Oscar Frank Repass, Sr. Give me a moment. Had a magical childhood in the shadow of the thriving space program. And through the support of my family and great coaches, I was able to secure a scholarship here. I became the first in my family to have a college degree and graduate. I obtained a degree in history, which I love and I continue today, and a minor in aviation. The level of determination exhibited by my father all those years ago has guided me the rest of my life. My first job out of college, I got to work at Walt Disney World. It just opened up in 1971. I was the first group of world-famous Jungle Cruise. Now, my family, they accuse me all the time I cannot remember what I have for breakfast. But they say, you can remember that. I'm going to share that with you. Jungle Cruise, Bunny. Welcome aboard, danger lovers, thrill seekers, nature lovers, or just plain lovers. My name's Seymour Jungle, former lookout in the Titanic. I'll be your skipper, guide, and social director for the next 3 days and 3 nights. And the little lady in the back says, I got to catch my bus in an hour. I'm sorry, ma'am. You're going to have to stick it out. Now comes the most dangerous part of our journey, the return to civilization and Interstate 4. Anyway, after that, found my true calling in law enforcement. Spent 4.5 years on the street, but after that, I started to work and teach both young and seasoned officers new techniques and skills that protect themselves and others on the street. The purpose of education is to give a wide-based knowledge, not just random facts. The final objective is to give students desire to continue their education as throughout their lives. I have Parsons to thank for teaching me that approach. Parsons College opened more doors for me than I could ever possibly imagine. I have had the honor to travel throughout the country teaching officers to help themselves and the ones that they teach. I am humbled and honored to be recognized by my peers and the leadership of the Parsons Hall of Honor. While at Parsons, I learned about dedication to community service. I hope that I've inspired others to place service above yourself and community service above the individual. As a dedicated firearms instructor in the field of law enforcement for 36 years, I know that my students are safer as their communities they serve and protect. In closing, I want to thank my parents for teaching me that hard work, determination are the keys to success, but I also want to thank Parsons for providing me with more opportunities than I could ever imagine. Thank you very much. I know that Parsons has taught me to be the best that I can be. Thank you.
Arnold Rothschild, class of '69. Arnie Rothschild's first challenge at Parsons was to learn how to learn. With the help of 2 caring professors, that's exactly what he did. Today, he's a successful business executive that wears many hats. Arnie will be presented by Larry Litwin.
Thank you very much, Dave, and to everyone on the committee for all the work that they do, and congratulations to all of the honorees, those announced and those about to be recognized. Well, it's an understatement to say that it is my honor to introduce our next inductee under the Parsons College Wall of Honor. Arnie Rothschild's story is a familiar one. In the most recent Parsons College e-news newsletter, Arnie wrote, and this is a quote, and you just heard it from Dave, as was the case with many of us, I had to learn how to learn. Early on, he wrote, he struggled to retain information and was very concerned about his ability to succeed. One day, as fate would have it, Dr. Cornell Clark, a dean who also taught educational psychology, stopped Arnie after one of his classes and asked, "Why is it you have a strong A in my class, but when I looked at your records, you are struggling in the other courses?" Arnie explained that while he took copious notes in those other classes, he did not retain the information. Dean Clark looked at him and said, "But you don't take notes in my class," to which Arnie responded, "That's because you, Dr. Clark, make sense to me, and by listening, I know exactly what you are thinking." So Dr. Clark then suggested that Arnie stop taking notes in those other classes, lock into the teacher's frame of mind, and try to figure out why they thought what they were saying really mattered. And that's what Arnie Rothschild did. And he became a Dean's List student who went on to a successful business career as a marketing communicator, an organization builder, and community advocate. His extensive experience includes political strategic counseling, public information outreach, and community affairs. He is a true relationship builder and relationship marketer. Professionally for Arnie, it all began right here at Parsons at radio station KCLS, which was our campus radio station. He went on to partner with commercial radio stations around the country and major radio and television consultancies here in the United States, the United Kingdom, and Australia. Arnie is now president and CEO of Normal Communications, a major political consultancy which has planned and run more than 150 political elections. And I have here mostly winners. Almost all winners. I know we have more than one thing in common, but nothing more important than the fact that both Arnie and I wear Parsons College t-shirts when we go to the gym each morning. And we love when people ask us questions. Says Arnie, when he's around those huge political egos, he always wants to remember his roots, where he came from, what got him there, Parsons College. He too loves when people start prying into, "Tell me all about it. I heard about Parsons. Is it true?" Arnie will never forget his roots, the role Parsons and 52556 played in what got him here. Please join me in welcoming to the class of 2017, the Parsons College Wall of Honor, Arnold H. Rothschild, Parsons College class of 1969.
Well, first of all, thank you, all of you. I have some things I want to say to the committee, but I'm going to hold those till the end. And when you're in a room, when you do political consulting and you're not in a political room, you recognize that you shouldn't talk about politics. I'm not going to, but at the beginning, it's going to sound like I am. Excuse me. I run elections all over New York State. New York State is a state. We are broke. Our school systems are failing. Less than half of the kids in our cities graduate. We have high taxes. We force people to leave the state, move their businesses. And in over 100 elections that I've been in, there's been one common opponent. And that's been an organization called the New York State United Teachers. Again, I apologize. Now, I'm not anti-union, but we learned something that the Teachers Union of New York State never learned, and that is, because of Parsons College, that education is about learning and developing people. It is not about defending the long-standing practices of education. So when I came to Parsons, I was shocked to find out that it wasn't about the teachers, it was about the students. Now think about that, because that was 1964. We were so far ahead as an educational institution that we knew something then that to this day, the New York United Teachers don't understand. And by the way, they spend $30 million a year trying to maintain the status quo. So I would say to you that we were given a gift, and it was way far ahead of its time. And so today, I want to talk about the t-shirts. because I've been the most fortunate guy in the whole world. We owned a bunch of radio stations. I've been in a ton of elections. And this speech is not about that. It's about all of you and something we shared and a message that exists on the t-shirts if you know about it. So let me kind of tell you. You see, within the t-shirts, and I wear them every day. One morning, I jogged through Washington, D.C., before I had to testify before the Justice Department about how much mass was too much mass in the Telecom Act, wearing a Parsons t-shirt. I jogged through the streets of London, through Sydney, Australia, wearing a Parsons t-shirt when I was there to consult broadcasters. I ran into the Murrah Center in Oklahoma City, the monument, accidentally, but I was wearing a Parsons t-shirt. Because on that t-shirt is the message of what we needed to know to succeed in life. So let me share it with you. The P, to me, means passion and pursuit and pride. If you have passion, you pursue, and you have pride, you have everything. The A means always try hard. Actualize that passion, that pursuit, that pride, but always try to do better. The R, and Larry alluded to it, remember who you are. Remember who you are. I was in front of the Justice Department of the United States. Across the table were 14 Ivy League attorneys and 4 economists, 2 of them from Harvard, 1 from Princeton, 1 from Colgate. They didn't understand what I understood, which was radio in its construct was going in a different direction than what they postulated because they had no idea what they were talking about because they were book smart, not street smart folks. And in addition to becoming book smart folks, we got to be street smart as well. The S for me means success is a journey. You're not entitled to success. It is a day-by-day grind. But again, if you're following the rules, you're going to get there. The O means overachievers are overachievers for a reason. And if you watch them, you'll figure out the reason. The N, by the way, came from a speech that Winston Churchill gave. Winston Churchill was talking at a graduation, Oxford or Cambridge or somewhere, and it droned on for hours. And he walked up to the microphone and he gave a 5-word speech. 5 words. He said, never, ever, ever give up. So that N means never, ever, ever give up. The S is interesting because it's about a secret. It's a secret to life. Find out what you don't do well, then don't do it. I can tell you without qualification that anything good that happened to me in my life happened because I came to this town in 1964, became a student at Parsons College, and that people on the faculty invested in teaching me how to learn. To this day, when I go into a meeting, I apologize in advance for not taking notes, because I don't. Because I explained to people that the way I learned, I had to lock into what they were thinking. So to all of you, we experienced this incredible moment in time. And I'm extremely proud to be here and extremely honored to have this opportunity, in no small part to see a lot of people I haven't seen for a long time. Now to the committee. I was afraid to come back to Fairfield, Iowa for years. Afraid to see the change. Afraid to see something I loved so much that didn't really exist, and I was wrong, it exists. And I would get mailings or emails about a reunion. And when you go to a college that no longer has homecomings, you sometimes resist reunions. Homecomings are less threatening. So I would propose that perhaps, recognizing that the plan of the committee is to do this for 1 more year, that after that, we have a homecoming. and do that for as long as people want to come. I am honored to be here. I thank you all so much, especially the committee. And I wanted to sum up with 2 words: go Wildcats.
Jack Sullivan, class of 72. There are experts, and then there are experts. Our next honoree has spent over 40 years managing the lifestyles of the rich and affluent, from country clubs in Wisconsin to yacht clubs in Florida. Jack is being presented to the Wall of Honor by his wife, Darcy Mellon Sullivan.
Thank you, Dave, John Blackstone, and all of the committee, Mark Schaefer, curator of the Carnegie Museum Foundation, who keeps us Wildcats connected and preserves our common history. I was a townie and a faculty brat. A shout out to Susie Davis Steinbeck, my girlfriend from the first day of kindergarten. My grandfather was Lloyd E. Clayton, who was county engineer for 20 years, working across the street in the courthouse that, we heard the story last night about Lee Gobble. He was my next door neighbor, Mr. Fairfield. And his daughter and I became very close friends. I was like an older sister to Mary. My mom, Marnie Mellon, went to work at Parsons when I was in kindergarten. She was Dean of Women, Director of Public Relations, advisor to the PIRA portfolio, and ended her career as chairman of the sociology department. When she passed in 2001, we wanted to choose a fitting memorial for her. And this civic center and theater were a concept. They were architectural drawings. And we chose this as a memorial. And I believe we were the first to make donations to this wonderful place where we are today. Of course, when it was time for me to go to college, where would I go except for Parsons? My mom was my advisor. I lived at home, and I worked in the sociology department in the beginning. But I needed to do something else. So I got a job at Bailey's Cuisine Exceptionnel in the Elks Club, where we will soon be having our lunch. Master Chef John Bailey was hired by Millard Roberts to be chef at the faculty dining room, and then he later opened the restaurant of Bailey's. I can still visualize the moment when this new waiter, bartender came to work. I thought he was pretty cute. He was from New Jersey and Midwestern College. We got to know each other pretty well working at Bailey's. Our first date was during Christmas vacation at midnight after we got off work. And by the end of Christmas vacation, he also went home to New Jersey to see his family for Christmas. So we had our first date and got engaged during Christmas vacation. And he didn't remember, but he proposed to me twice. A day after he had proposed to me the first time, when he said, "Will you marry me?" I said, "You already asked me that." He said, "Well, what did you say?" I said, "Yes." Remember, this was the early 70s, so anyway, I won't go into all of that. Saturday was his graduation from Parsons, followed by our rehearsal and rehearsal dinner at Bailey's. You know, Bailey's was the best restaurant in town. It was graduation weekend. We couldn't get the night off. Both of us had to work our rehearsal dinner. I served my own rehearsal dinner, and I said, "Hi, I'm Darcy. Tonight I'm your server. Tomorrow I'm your daughter-in-law." In Madison, Wisconsin, where Jack went for his first GM position, we drove there and peered into the club the night before he was to start work. There was only the security lighting inside, and I said to Jack, "Do you realize none of the chairs match? There are stains on the carpet. And he said, and do you also remember they had 4 managers in 5 years? I was a little reluctant then. He was there 12 years, elected to the National Board of Club Managers Association of America, and later became the youngest president of that organization. We used to see Dave Neff, who would come to school in Madison with a graduate school of banking. And now we've been in Naples, Florida, 16 years. There's a fundraiser that the club managers put on called the Charity Classic. It will be in a couple weeks after we get back to Naples. This is the 20th anniversary. Jack has been chair of it, or co-chair, for most of those 20 years. We were in Michigan during Hurricane Irma, and his co-chair said, we have to cancel this event. There's devastation on all the courses, clubs. We can't justify the expenses that we're asking our clubs to pay to help raise these funds. We can't have the golf tournament. That course is flooded. Jack said, no, we need to go ahead, raise more money to support the organizations we have before, like the Golisano Children's Hospital, Florida Gulf Coast University for scholarships, as we have in the past. Plus, we need to raise additional funds for post-Hurricane Irma relief for the employees at the club. You get the idea. This is a guy, I'm looking at him now, okay. This is a guy with a heart, leadership skills, vision, drive, and energy that won't quit. Anything that he thinks he can make better, anything that he thinks needs his help, he takes on, and he does a mighty fine job at it. Our son, John, and his wife and 2 grandsons live in Fort Lauderdale. John's a general manager of a prestigious hotel in Miami Beach. He's a great husband and father, and at age 36, he surpassed his dad's career. You want to talk about a proud papa. Wow. So with great pride and respect, I'm happy to introduce my husband, Jack Sullivan, for the Parsons College Wall of Honor.
Wow, how do you top that? So why did a boy from New Jersey decide to go to school in Iowa? As Darcy said, I first went to Midwestern College. I remember my first morning waking up, because what was it about? It was about both more than an academic education. Of course that was critical, but it was also about learning this Midwestern culture that's so different than Iowa. I remember I was working as a waiter before I was going to school, and I told this customer I was going to Iowa. He said, hell, they still have cowboys and Indians there, don't they? And also corn and cows. Talk about cows. I woke up that first morning, a beautiful October warm morning. I slept with the window open. I thought I was dreaming. I heard a moo. The cow had its head in my dorm window. So welcome to Iowa. But as Darcy said, I can't sit on the sides. And Midwestern, a Parsons satellite, was having financial difficulties. I got involved in fundraising, really trying to save the school. And for whatever reason, I was actually appointed to serve on the Board of Trustees as a voting member of the school. Unfortunately, I also got to cast one of the deciding votes to close the school. That was the bad news. But the good news was we're flown down here to Fairfield, Iowa, greeted by Dean Bob Foulks, and welcomed as a school to Parsons. Wow, what a campus, and what a faculty. Ben Rogers, Cornell Clark, Dorothy Box, Everett Hadley, my dear friend up there, Dr. Bob Tree. And of course, my future mother-in-law, Marnie Mellon. Now, one thing I've learned, if you're afraid to ask the question, you're afraid of the answer, don't ask the question. So I had the courage to even ask my mother-in-law to proofread some articles that I wrote. As you know, she was an outstanding journalist, but quite a woman. So what made Parsons so special? That small, friendly, Midwestern community of Fairfield where it was based. The outstanding quality faculty that I talked about. The ratio of faculty to students. Boy, if you couldn't learn, Arnie, there, where else could you learn? All which fostered that unbelievable environment. It gave us the confidence to have the vision, to think big and know that we could accomplish our dreams. While here, I also had a few other things that influenced my future. As Darcy said, it was actually Bob Tree who introduced me to John Bailey, and we started at Bailey's Cuisine Exceptionnelle, a phenomenal French restaurant right here, gourmet restaurant right here in the Elks Club on the square. So my turn, my first day, there was that cute waitress, Darcy, who is the love of my life and my wife for 46 years. So thank you, dear. Darcy also got me started in my career. She introduced me to the game of golf. Some of you may know, Susie, in fact, lives in her home on the fifth tee of the Fairfield Golf and Country Club. And she said, come on, let me teach you this game. And so I remember the first time we went out and played. We both tee it up. And if you know the fifth hole, it's a par 4, goes down into a valley and then up. So we both hit our tee shots. And of course, I walked to mine. Realized it's Darcy's. Put my head between my legs and moved back. She outdrove me on the first hole. So I learned to take the game serious and understand golf in that regard. Also, another story, Dr. Bob, you may or may not remember this, but at graduation I was one credit short, one requirement short, phys ed. I went to see Dean Tree and he said, Jack, you and I play golf with your father-in-law, Bob Mellon. I know you've played with Dr. Warr, head of our phys ed department. Isn't golf physical education? I'll grant you the 1 credit hour. So as Darcy said then, I graduated 71 on one day, and the next day we were married at Barhyde Chapel. I went on, we both went on to teach at Cardinal School District over in Eldon. And Darcy taught French, and I taught special education, a skill that really taught me patience that I've used over the years. I had a major in psychology and education and a minor in business. And we then joined Fairfield Golf and Country Club as a young junior member, working on my golf game, but I also then decided to work there at night as a bar manager. It started my career, and now 40-plus years later, I've worked at some of the finest clubs in the country, and I get to consult with some of the top clubs, not only throughout the nation, but throughout the world. But all of this comes back to Parsons and the wonderful educational, cultural, and social environment that I was privileged to be part of at Parsons and Fairfield, Iowa. Dave, John, and the rest of the committee, Bob Tree, thank you for allowing me to join this wonderful group of talented individuals on the Wall of Honor, who we all share this common bond. And Arnie, I agree with you. Go Wildcats. Thank you very much.
David Switzer, class of '66. David has a list of degrees as long as your arm. In real life, he's a medical physicist. Should you need an MRI or a CAT scan, you can thank David for his pioneering assistance during the early stages of development. Dave's sister, Maxine Reed, will present David to the Wall of Honor.
Wow, there have been some great presentations today, haven't there? David William Switzer was born in Fairfield, Iowa, the first of Warren and Mary Switzer's 6 children. Growing up on the homestead farm in Jefferson County, he acquired a love of nature and the outdoors, hunting and fishing. The one-room country school he attended through 7th grade had no running water, no indoor plumbing, no telephone, and it was heated by a coal-fired space heater. The little school may have lacked modern conveniences, but it had great teachers, and it was a source of community for the whole neighborhood. But the little school would soon be closing. Consolidation was beginning, and it was time for Dave to go to town school. He was in the first group of county school children to be sent to the new junior high school for 8th grade, where he played football and was elected student council president. Moving on to Fairfield High School, Dave again thrived with many talented teachers, and he participated in numerous clubs and activities. It was at FHS where he took his first physics class. 4 years later, he graduated in 1962 on a Friday night, and wasting no time, started at Parsons College on Monday morning. At Parsons, he participated in the Outstanding Speakers Contest, was a lab assistant in chemistry, a member of Honor Society, and he received the faculty plaque for excellence in physics. In 1966, Dave graduated cum laude with a double major Bachelor of Science degree in physics and mathematics. Regretfully, he missed a minor in Spanish by just 1 class. Then he continued at Parsons in the summer of 1966 on staff as a tutor in physics, enjoying the interaction with many students. Dave then went on to further his education by earning a Master of Science degree in physics with a minor in math from St. Louis University in St. Louis, Missouri. He has also done additional graduate work at the University at MD Anderson Hospital in Houston, Texas. His distinguished and rewarding career in medical physics has spanned more than 45 years. His numerous accomplishments include earning certification by the American Board of Radiology in diagnostic radiological physics and therapeutic radiological physics. Perhaps his most coveted professional awards are being named a fellow in both the American College of Medical Physics and the American College of Radiology. Dave's personal drive throughout his career has been his passion for helping people and sharing his knowledge, whether with patients being treated, residents and technologists being trained by him, or giving radiation safety training in the industrial field. Today, Dave is mostly retired and enjoying life with his wife, Carol, their 6 grown children and their families, including 12 grandchildren. They share their time between a home in Billings, Montana, their lakeside home near Brainerd, Minnesota, and the family farm northeast of Fairfield. I am proud to present my older brother, Dave Switzer, as a recipient of the 2017 Parsons College Wall of Honor Award.
Good afternoon. Well, first let me acknowledge and thank my wife, Carol, for her commitments and support over these many years, for without that there would be no career recognized here, and thanks much to all of my family, our 4 sons and our 2 daughters. Robin is here with us, and they've endured my long hours of work. And to my sister Maxine, who saw fit to nominate me. And all told, Carol and I have, as been said, 12 grandchildren, and of whom I have said many times, as you look at them, you can see the future, and it is very bright. Maxine served as a lab assistant in some of my early ballistics experiments in physics. And my mother served in terms of monitoring some of my early chemistry experiments in her kitchen. So thanks very much to the committee for your recognition and for this award. Congratulations to all the award recipients. I'm awed by your contributions and to contributions to our nation, and they are a great tribute to Parsons. We've all started somewhere, and my start was out northeast on the prairie and at Buchanan number 3. That has a little bit of significance because my father went to Buchanan number 3, and my grandfather went to Buchanan number 3, and my great-grandfather went to Buchanan number 3, and my great-great-grandfather was the first teacher there at Buchanan number 3. So there's a history out there. The thing I would like to do too is to acknowledge one of the teachers, in that all of them were great, but one of them had special significance for me, and that was Catherine Bestledge Can. And so I special thanks to Catherine for all of the work that she did, not only for me, but for all of us there in that school. During my early years, there were several deaths out there in that little local community, which became somewhat of a direction for my career interest. And as well, in my senior year, my mother's father passed away with a pancreatic cancer, and that certainly helped as well in decisions that I made along the way. The Sondheim is located in a spot that also has a great history and significance for me in the history of Fairfield and of Jefferson County. There's the Jefferson County Courthouse that's right here. There's a Flinchbaugh home, which has been moved to a site a bit south from here. Some of you might remember that there was a grocery store across the street called Bentico. Just attached to it was a creamery, and the Bentico store actually was an original livery stable, and I know some of those relatives of mine would have parked a horse in there. So there was Luckman's Hardware as well, which is still there, and my friend Dave Luckman is the owner-manager of that store. The old high school was just a few blocks west and burned down, I believe, in 1936. And there's the Masonic Temple over here, and over here is the old CB&Q railway station. They all have a certain level of significance. My great-great-grandfather surveyed the space across the street here where the steeple stands, and that would have been probably somewhere around 1850, I suppose. He was a government surveyor here, originally stationed in Iowa City, and then came to be stationed here in the Jefferson County area. He did have the same name as well, and he would not only have surveyed that space, of course, but there would be several other towns around, and I'm sure some of the streets in Fairfield were laid out by him, although I don't know that for sure. My dad ate lunch across the street here in the Luckman Hardware, and then we delivered cream and eggs to the Gray's creamery station down here on Saturday nights, and used the money to come to the Bentico store to buy the groceries for the next week. Well, back in the 1870s, my great-great-grandfather and great-grandfather joined several other local businessmen in donating to a fund that attracted Parsons College to Fairfield. There were several locations, I suppose, that as I have read, that could have been used as a site for Parsons, but Fairfield was chosen. Now, both of these fellows had college degrees. And my great-grandfather actually had a master's degree in mathematics from University of Iowa. So they knew that there was some importance to the college experience and education. Growing up, I was determined to go to college. And since I was to be the first male in my direct line to go to college since my great-great-grandfather and great-grandfather, I wanted to attend Parsons, as it was the school that these ancestors had helped to start. It was a good fit for me, and thanks to Drs. Snedeker and Knuckles and Saflikos, Dr. Rush, Beck Rail, among others, I successfully completed the double major. Missed the minor in Spanish. It was sort of a thing that also had to do with my career, as the advanced Spanish course and a nuclear physics course occurred at the same time, and so I chose to do the nuclear physics course and carried on. Now, if we could, just for a second here, 55 years ago, I was standing in front of a group at Parsons in a speaking contest, and the topic that I chose to speak on was to set up a blockade of Cuba so that the Soviets couldn't bring their missiles in. Now, I think that there might be some possibility that President Kennedy was listening because a few weeks later they established the blockade. So, standing here in the Sondheim takes me back to the time at Parsons. And let's just remember Joey Brown being there, Bess Myerson, Faye Emerson, Orson Bean, Hal Holbrook, Kingston Trio, Buffy St. Marie, the Smothers Brothers, the Four Lads, and even our own Bill and Pat Medley. What were your favorites? Mine, of all these people, was to see the performance by Louis Armstrong and his orchestra. And then, of course, we could remember that there were some really famous people that came to campus, as others have mentioned along here, including the minority leader of the House, Gerald R. Ford, at that time, who was our commencement speaker. What great opportunities we had. It's a wonderful situation. I'd like to end by offering my thanks to all of the radiology residents that have helped me, and I've in turn helped them over the years, and to the staff physicians in radiology, nuclear medicine, and radiation therapy that I've worked with and assisted over these years. It's been such a rewarding and satisfying career. And again, thank you to the committee for the award, and to all you have done to keep the memory of Parsons alive in Fairfield. On your part, it's a labor of love, and it's a great honor to be recognized in your hometown. I especially offer thanks for that. And one more capability here, one more thing that I need to do is to offer congratulations to all of the awardees.
Our final honoree was labeled a leader from the get-go. As an educator and college recruiter, he never gave up advising and helping kids and students to find a way to further their education. Presenting Bill Winger to the Wall of Honor is fraternity brother Don Samuelsson.
Well, for the sake of time, Bill, I'm not going to read that thing you gave me because it was just too long, but I'll refund the $100 to you if you believe that. Well, in the 60s, early 60s when I was at Parsons, one of the most popular Lambda Chi's was High Alpha Bill Winger. Few could outsmile, out-handshake, outwork, or out-talk this guy. He even swept Delta Zeta, Donna Hotelling off her feet, and they're still married today. And that had to take some selling, Bill, because I know you. He started out after graduation in admissions for Parsons College, works basically the East Coast, then worked for some others also in admissions. Then he discovered there's a better way. I'm going to form my own data system, which he did. Then he formed his own company called, I've got it here somewhere, Admissions Management Corporation. And it was so revolutionary that he was on national TV in New York and other places telling how people could recruit for colleges. Did so well that Bell and Howell contacted him in 1974 and hired him away. And 8 years later, he's Regional Sales Manager of the Year for Bell and Howell. He got tired of that too, so after a while he bought a secretarial school in Denver and saw it grow to include all Western states almost, including Hawaii. The amazing fact, then he and his partner started that with $0 in sales, and 4 years later, $12 million in sales. That is amazing. He has organizational skills, management skills. He listens to his compatriots before he makes decisions. He's a natural-born leader. And personally, I've had a little military experience, and I must tell you, if this man would have chosen the military, he would have several stars on his collar today. It is my pleasure. No, it's my honor. Bill Winger.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to first thank the committee, and especially Dave, John, and others for awarding me this honor. It's a great privilege, but you notice with the W, you're always last, and they always put the ADD student last. I had to marry a special education teacher, my wife Donna in the back. We've been married now 53 years, but she finally diagnosed me and told me, "You are truly ADD," and I am. I'm humbled today because I think there are many more who are much more deserving of this honor than I, but I'm very pleased that I am the one that was chosen. I think of my circle of friends coming from Parsons, Van Hackett, Sam, Jerry Over, if you remember him, and my good friend Rich Becker, who was my first roommate at Parsons at Howard Dorm. We've been friends ever since. He and his wife and Don and I still vacation together. I would like to, when I was asked to do this, I said, what do I remember? And one of the most outstanding things I remember is Millard Roberts. For all his flaws and all the things that happened later, I still remember going with him to give high school graduation speeches. And if any of you ever had that opportunity, he gave a speech and it kind of went like this. He talked about the time he was at Syracuse University and he was driving along the highway and there was a hitchhiker. He stopped, he picked up the hitchhiker got in the car, started to talk to him about the trip, earning his way. And he got out of the car and thanked him and looked up at him and said, "I'll be seeing you," although he probably never would. Well, I thought about that, and I remembered back to getting off the train in Fairfield in 1961 and moving to Howard Dormitory, meet your roommates, go through all the initial things that you go through, and we started to earn our way by going to classes, by being involved, getting involved with different kinds of organizations. I was elected initially to Student Senate, I remember that. We enjoyed, but we learned. And we learned from some of the most outstanding people that I have met. And the one that I remember the most is Dr. Robert Baird in the business department. I later ran into Dr. Baird. I had a school in Hawaii, and he was on the faculty at the University of Hawaii. But my career has been about putting strong teams together. And I have been blessed by those who I've been able to surround myself with. It's not been about me. It's been about what they were able to do with me as a team. Success was not just getting the job done, but getting along, leading, and working with your team and praising them because they did it. And I'll never forget my graduation from Parsons. Only one thing do I really remember: the person who I walked in with. If those of you who played football remember Lou Wilson, I remembered how small I stood next to Lou Wilson. And we marched together for that. My first job was with Parsons, recruiting on the East Coast, and we recruited many students, firstly from upstate New York, then I moved to Washington, D.C., and then I went to one of the satellite schools, Pershing College in Beatrice. But that job with Parsons led to everything else I did in education. It gave me that student-centered feeling that education needs. And we heard earlier about the model, the lecture, the lab, the tutorial. If you look at other colleges now in America, they're all doing it. So I retired in '99, sold my businesses at that point. I'm still very active in national accreditation issues with those vocational schools. I've visited over and done visits at over 300 schools in the U.S. And it's been a great ride capped with this honor. And I'll be seeing you.
As we get ready to wrap this up, because I know you're getting hungry and seventh inning stretch was too long ago. Two major items with us at the Alumni Hall and the theater that are here for permanent residents are the Barhite Chapel, are the Angel stained glass windows. So when we go out, if you haven't had a chance to look at that, we were very fortunate to retain and keep that. In 2012, we dedicated this window in the Alumni Hall. Barhite organ, been a major part of the chapel, graduation and honor services. In 2010, the organ was restored and has been played on this stage. In conclusion, I'd like to extend an invitation to all who have registered to join us for lunch at the Fairfield Elks Lodge, located on the west side of the square. Most of you will be able to walk. Those of you that need assistance, please use your vehicles. Immediately following the unveiling of the plaques in the Alumni Hall, an invitation after the luncheon to visit the Carnegie Museum, located on the 3rd floor of the old library on South Court Street. They'll be open from 1:30 until 4. For those of you that wish, in this same location at 2 o'clock, a viewing of a new show called Life Before Fairfield, the first of an 8-part series of Fairfield history that explores what happened in the area known as Jefferson County before the first settlers arrived. One of the future chapters will be about Parsons College, so you can see the quality of this as we move forward. I'd like to, at this time, invite my co-chair, John Blackstock, to the podium to share some of his thoughts as we wrap up.
Thank you very much, Dave, and accolades from everybody. I did all that. Great day for a football game, huh? It's a damn shame the Wildcats aren't playing today. But I would tell you that the breaded pork tenderloins and the Maid-Rights await us. So there's a memory there. As part of the selection committee and the committee in general, one of the key things we look at in our inductees and our nominations is each one, when I'm done reading it, I have to kind of walk away with an, oh, wow. That's the criteria. And I'll tell you what, there are 10 oh wows here today. You look at Dick Barton. Some things I'd just like you to remember. You look at Dick Barton, $40 a duffel bag and a bus ride to Fairfield, back to home, and all between. You look at Mike Brewer, started out the activities of fair. In fact, he gave me my first scholarship when I couldn't even get into another college. He probably doesn't remember that. And you have to wonder, after hearing Mike's
speech up here, whether brevity was his key to success. Then you look at Tony Dimaggio. Tony Dimaggio, McKee's Rocks in the Bottoms in Pittsburgh. His family knew nothing but working in steel mills, and I was headed for the same plight because I'm from Pittsburgh too. So Tony, we both got through it. Here we are. Then you look at Andy over there representing Franklin Foulks, and you got to remember that Franklin, before his time, broke the racial barrier and became the first black coach at Parsons, and he broke barriers at many other schools also. And then you take a look at Sandy, pretty lady sitting there who was discovered by the ever recruiting Bob Spencer, who could find a basketball player under a rock. He took her, he gave her a scholarship, and he opened the way for her to do some fabulous things, not just in education, but in alternative education, which is a rather tough route to go. And then you look at the big guy next to her, Frank Repass. The next time you see a SWAT team member or an officer in duress or whatever, think about it. It's people like Frank Repass that train those people to survive and to help others. That is huge. And if you sit down and talk to Arnie Rothschild, who I thought was brilliant with his Parsons, and every time you talk to him, because I wrote his bio, and his bio was so widespread and he did and does so many things, it was almost incredibly difficult to pick out one. And if you talk to him for another half hour, I'm sure you'd find out 6 more things that he's doing too. Jack Sullivan, he took the great route to success. He married the daughter of one of the faculty members. How good is that to get started? And then she taught him how to play golf. You got to remember that. And then you look to his left down there, Mr. David Switzer, another Fairfield guy whose family actually contributed to getting Parsons College here and in the ground and off and running. How good's that? And not only that, he took his education, and I don't know how deeply or strongly he is into the pioneering of CAT scans and MRIs, but he was very much involved in the early years of that development. Think about that. And then you get the guy on the end there. I used to walk at him and frown at him on the college campus days because he was in another fraternity and I was in this fraternity. But anyway, Bill Winger, $0 to building a $12 million business. Somebody said, if you're doing something you don't like, you're not good at, then don't do it. Well, he found something he liked and he made another banner career. So to these people, phenomenally terrific. Big hand clap. Okay, next year, if you attended the ceremony last night for Lee Gobble, you saw that there were 4 awardees for the Parsons College Wildcat Spirit Award. John Braidwood, Rustin Lippincott, Susan Bates Kessel, and Ron Schaefer. Well, we purposely didn't award the 5th Spirit Award because we knew this gentleman wouldn't be here. But I would tell you that had this gentleman been a student at Parsons College, he probably would have been our very, very first inductee onto the Wall of Honor. So we honor this man. We're so privileged to have him still with us at 90 years old. And his name, Dr. Robert Tree. Doc, come on up. For the last 8 years, Dr. Tree has sat with us up here, passed out the plaques and the Wall of Honor plaques, and health things have kind of sent him back a step or two. So we're going to put a chair over here in the middle and shake the group picture around Dr. Tree, and then we will head down to unveil the plaques on the wall, and then you'll get to eat your breaded pork tenderloin and your Maid-Rite sandwich. So bear with us for just a few more seconds. This is the master plaque for the Wildcat Award. Hey, Doc. You're right there. You want to say a word or so? Would you like to say a word?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's dangerous to give me the opportunity to say a word.
May take a while for lunch.
I'm really very astonished at this because I almost didn't come. And somehow I got my arm twisted to come to this meeting. And I'm very thrilled. And I've enjoyed it very much. And I'm particularly hearing about the honorees. It's wonderful. And when you think of what a little college, I can remember my friends back in the Chicago area where I came from wanted to know, what in the world are you doing going out to, where is that, Iowa? And I said, well, it seems to have some good points. And, you know, I've been here ever since. And some people think, where do you live now? I have lived in Fairfield, Iowa since around 55 or something like that. And I've lived in two places. I lived in the garage apartment that Louis and Refa Gaines had just recently built, and I was the first one to live in it. And I lived there for quite a number of years, and then decided maybe it's time I got something a little more permanent. Besides those flight of stairs going up over the garage, I was getting a little bit long. And so I have a house that I've lived in ever since, and I'm still living in it. So I have enjoyed this very much. I thank the committee, and it has been a real pleasure to be here.
We'll give that to John Oakley. There you go.
Thank you.
Doctor, if you'd follow over and have a seat here in the middle, please.
Okay.
And now, folks, while you're standing, and if you're not, please do so, on the back of your program, we're going to close singing our Parsons College alma mater.